Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. So I'm actually going to be pulling back the curtain and sharing some of my functional medicine lab results with you. Something that's pretty interesting and something I've been wanting to do for some time. So not just the numbers, but I want to dive into what they actually mean and how I'm addressing them and how you can think about your health in a similar way. Now, keep in mind, I'm not here to diagnose, to prescribe anything. These are simply my results, and they're really for educational purposes only. And it's just me sharing my approach and what I've learned so that people know what kind of conversations to have with their medical providers. So it'll be about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And so let's dive into what health optimization just looks like when we're not just like checking the boxes, but take the time to understand our bodies. So let's go right into this here. Why am I sharing this? Well, I had a weird realization the other day. Um, I had to ask myself, am I part of the sandwich generation now? My parents are getting a bit older. They're thinking about retirement soon. I'm raising my kids. They're still pretty young, building my career. And in somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, I am committed. I'm trying to optimize my own health. And for the longest time, I thought that like functional medicine, personalized health, optimization, all of these things were really only out there or available to like the biohacking tech crew out of San Francisco, people with access to concierge doctors, unlimited budgets, and without like real world schedules like that, like the most of us. And so here's what I learned: the information, the approach, the ability to understand our own body, that should be accessible to everyone. And so I'm sharing my labs, my actual plan, and how I think about all of this so that maybe you can apply some of this framework to your own journey. So let's go to the big picture. All right, I've had, so we go back to March 2025. I had two sets of comprehensive labs done, so March and July. And instead of just looking at whether things were in range or out of range, my practitioner and I looked at optimal ranges, what these numbers meant in terms of energy, in terms of hormones, in terms of long-term health. And this is all part of a health coaching program I joined earlier that year. And like I already saw myself as somebody who was pretty healthy, fit, active, going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. And I'm a physical therapist too. And yet I still felt like I wanted to get a deeper understanding of my body and to optimize my own health. And so I got some help. And everything I'm going to share from this experience is what I found and what we found and discussed with my functional medicine practitioner. So here's the overview. It seems like I have a fairly strong metabolic foundation. My blood sugar handling is excellent. I've got some targeted issues around hormone balance, inflammation, gut health that we have been and are addressing. I'll go more into that. So what I'm going to do here is essentially walk through each system. And so if we look at the blood sugar and metabolic health, you got to look at the original labs there. Foundation first, the good news, right? My glucose from March down to July dropped from 90 to 80. My A1C went from 5.2 to 5.1, and my fasting insulin stayed low between 3.2 and 3.8. So why does this actually matter, right? Because this is kind of the picture of someone who's insulin sensitive. My cells respond well to insulin, and I don't need a ton of it to get glucose into my cells. So this is the opposite of pre-diabetes or insulin resistance, which is a good thing. So if these numbers were off, what would that mean, right? I'd probably be experiencing afternoon energy crashes, constant cravings, brain fog after meals, stubborn belly fat that won't budge. But I'm not really seeing that, which means if I'm dealing with low energy or other symptoms, the problem probably isn't my blood sugar system. It's likely something deeper like inflammation, hormones, or gut health. And so the takeaway here is we're not fixing diabetes. I'm optimizing an already good system. So my brain, my muscles have stable energy while we focus on some of the deeper issues. Again, here's a quick look at just what that lab looked like, or that section of the lab anyway. So now we go on to inflammation, cardiovascular health. Now, let's talk about inflammation, cholesterol, because this is where things start to get a little bit interesting. My LDL went from 109 to 130. That's borderline high by conventional standards. My triglycerides were very good, very low, 51, 57. HDL solid in the low 50s, and my high sensitivity CRP, or C-reactive protein, which is a marker of inflammation, went from 3.06, which is borderline elevated, down to 2.02, which is average risk and trending in the right direction. So here's how to think about these triglycerides. All right, low triglycerides plus good HDL means pretty good metabolic health. But the LDL creeping up plus the mid-range CRP, there's some vascular inflammation or inflammatory load that is probably happening. So it's not a disaster, but it is something to address. So the thing is, you don't typically feel like high LDL. It's not something you experience from a symptom perspective, but functionally, when it's paired with inflammation, you might notice slower recovery from workouts, low-grade aches, especially over decades, and higher risk of plaque buildup, which is never good. So here's what I am doing about it, again, with the discussion that I had with my functional med practitioner. So three things. Number one, high dose omega-3 fish oil. The omega-3s help lower triglycerides, reduce inflammatory signaling, and support brain function and cell membranes. Number two, fiber. This is huge. All right, so I historically do not eat like any fiber. I'm very low on fiber. And so the target for me, which was a stretch, was 38 grams per day. Fiber to bind to bile, it carries the cholesterol and escorts it out of the body. And so your body then has to use more cholesterol to make new bile, which can help bring the LDL down naturally. And so the third one, cruciferous vegetables, foods that support liver and bile flow, like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, asparagus, ginger, and turmeric. So these are things, again, tend to have some higher fiber in them, but also help liver metabolize cholesterol more efficiently. So if you think about it this way, LDL is kind of the building blocks, and CRP is more like a fire alarm. And so the plan, or my plan anyway, is to use the omega-3s, fiber, liver support to lower some of that, like if we go back to the same analogy, the combustible material, and calm the alarm. So that's a look at inflammation, LDL, CRP, and my plan and what I've been doing to address that naturally through diet and some of the supplementation. So here is some of the interesting findings. I'll pull up the original lab report here. Just like that. It's probably, for me, one of the most important sections, and maybe why some of you are watching this as well. So my testosterone is fairly solid. It's within normal range. It went from 495 to 534. Again, so mid to upper range. Not bad. Free testosterone, pretty high in March at 35.4, which is above the lab range and still high normal. But what was interesting was the DHEA. And so the lab's upper limit is 416 and was 535 on the last testing. So I've got plenty of androgens, testosterone, DHA, and that's good for drive, muscle building, resilience. But here is the problem. The total estrogens jumped from 178 to 575. And my practitioner was a little bit concerned about this. It's clearly elevated. Now, during all of this, the estradiol itself stayed within the normal range. So what does this actually mean, and why was my practitioner a little bit concerned about this? It means I don't have a testosterone deficiency. It seems more like I have a hormone processing issue. So my body's making plenty of testosterone and DHEA, but estrogen isn't being cleared efficiently. And so that balance between production and detoxification is off. And so what does this actually look like? Right. So, and especially for like a guy like myself, how does high estrogen show up? So the things that you tend to see are water retention, puffiness, mood swings, irritability, anxiety, lower motivation, even when testosterone is normal. And we end up with some of that like stubborn fat, around the chest and hips, midsection, that sort of stuff. Maybe even experience like sleep disturbances, night sweats, and feeling wired, even though maybe the energy is low. So what am I actually doing about this? So aside from like some of the diet things that we had mentioned, there are a number of supplements that were recommended to me to kind of get some of these things back on track. So number one, testosterone supports testosterone production and helps steer testosterone away from excessive conversion to estrogen. And then DAM plus I3C. These are compounds that actually can be found in those like cruciferous vegetables that we mentioned earlier. So having the cruciferous vegetables and this supplement are pretty good. They help the body favor better estrogen metabolites and the kind that support brain and bone health and away from more inflammatory types that can cause weight gain, fat gain, mood issues, and even potentially some like cancer risk. So two so far. In addition to that, supermethyl SP, this has some B vitamins in there to support methylation, a key biochemical process for estrogen detox, and neurotransmitter balance and clearing homocysteine. So on top of that, we're almost there. We look at the Metacrin DX. That's for liver support. Again, think of this as like upgrading the liver's assembly line for hormone breakdown so estrogens don't actually accumulate. And so the story that I'm telling myself and the way I process this, right? My hormones aren't low, they're more congested. So my plan isn't like testosterone replacement. It's more about estrogen clearance, support, right, through the liver, through the bile, through methylation and cruciferous nutrients. So that's what I was looking at there. Now, getting closer to the end here. Gut health, food sensitivities. So here's kind of where it all kind of gets connected. And so I had food sensitivity testing is done as part of my labs, the IgG panels in both March and July. And what was found in both is I have elevated immune responses to corn, to casein, to gluten, whey, eggs, and both sometimes. And they improved slightly from one lab draw to the next, but they're still well above the normal range. And so from a functional perspective, it suggests that my immune system is reacting to common foods, which actually ties back to increased intestinal permeability, leaky gut, an imbalance in the gut bacteria, or something known as dysbiosis. And so a certain gut bacteria, they produce an enzyme called, I had to write this one down, right? Beta glucuronidase. So not even sure if I'm pronouncing that correct, but I had to write it down here so I didn't forget it. But that can unpack estrogens, the liver, try to eliminate and send them back into circulation. So if your gut's off, your hormones can be off. And how does this feel symptomatically? Things like bloating, gas, brain fog, energy dips after eating, joint aches, skin flares, and a resistance to fat loss, and even a chronic low-grade inflammation. So first, how do we address things like this? Oh, kind of missed this slide here, but it goes over all of that. So first off, I'm taking a daily probiotic or symbiotic probiotic. Supports healthy microbiome, reduces the gut permeability, shifts bacteria away from those that promote estrogen recirculation. Number two, something called Repairvite. This here, it provides nutrients to repair the intestinal lining. The goal is to tighten the gut barrier, so fewer food particles, toxins leak into the bloodstream. And third, this one was probably the most difficult, but was removing gluten and dairy for a period of time. Avoiding eggs and corn initially, and then like gradually reintroducing them back one by one and to track my symptoms. Ideally, this removes like the main triggers, decreases immune activation, and lightens the inflammatory burden. So the teaching here, gut, immune system, were reacting to a lot of just like normal staple foods that I was eating regularly. And the chronic immune noise drives inflammation and even hormone problems. So ultimately, it was about giving my gut a reset, removing triggers, repairing the lining, and rebuilding that gut microbiome so my body can handle foods and hormones with a little bit less issue or friction. So a quick note on hydration and kidney function. Again, an important one, but a quick one. BUN, which is blood urea nitrogen, that went from 17 to 22. Here's what that looks like. Slightly high. Creatinine, normal. Kidney filtration rate is good. But when that BUN is high, but creatinine is normal, usually means mild dehydration or high protein intake. For me, it's probably both. It's likely I played a men's soccer league game the night before getting my labs done. Maybe that had an impact. I don't know. But anyway, symptoms of being even just a little bit dehydrated or even underhydrated, you might know this: headaches, fatigue, poor exercise performance, slower recovery, cramping. And so my plan, what was recommended, that drink about half my body weight in ounces of water, plus an extra 10 to 20 ounces on workout days, and definitely adding in like electrolyte powders, potassium-rich foods. So having things like salmon, avocado, squash, tomatoes, coconut water, leafy greens. Because the hydration piece, it's not really just about the water, although that's important. It's really about the electrolytes. And so we're correcting subtle concentration issues, so energy, recovery, kidney function stay optimal. Almost there. So vitamin D, that was a big win. My vitamin D went from 26.3, which is deficient, to 95.4, which is high optimal. So there was a massive shift there. Maybe some of this was going into the summer months, getting some more natural sunlight, but also I was supplementing with vitamin D. So low vitamin D definitely can show up as like low mood, poor resilience, distress, lower testosterone, higher inflammation, a weak immune system, and poor recovery. And the good thing is now I'm more at an optimized level, and we'll keep retesting and probably adjust the dose to keep me under 100. But this is one of the bigger wins from my supplementation plan, and also probably some natural sunlight over the summer. So I am taking vitamin D3 with K2. The D3 supports hormones and immunity, and the K2 directs calcium into the bones instead of arteries, which is important for cardiovascular health. So coming down the home stretch here. Did I miss this? No, looks like it. So sleep, stress, and the nervous system. All right, this one's a little bit more indirect, but it is critical. So we did find, with my DHEA being high, CRP, C-reactive protein, was mildly elevated, estrogen high. These things can all be signs of chronic stress or poor sleep, which makes sense. And so my practitioner recommended testing for sleep apnea just to rule it out. And because if my sleep is fragmented by like apnea, everything else like hormones, inflammation, weight, it gets harder to fix. And so that's why I was taking things in addition, like adaptocrine, which has adaptogens and nutrients to support the HPA excess. And so essentially that's our stress response system. So in order to help smooth out like that cortisol curve, so I have more stable energy and less burnout. That's why I would do something like that. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you can't out supplement bad sleep or chronic stress. But part of the plan was identifying hidden stressors like sleep apnea, stress, and so forth, and using adaptogens to support a healthier nervous system alone. So here is how I'm thinking about all of this, just like putting it all together. So I'll put it into like this framework, and because that's how I process things, how I help to understand my own health and really anything that I'm learning. But ideally, you can kind of learn to use something like this too. So my 7-system health framework. Number one, metabolic engine, blood sugar, insulin, are dialed in. It seems like I am insulin sensitive, which is great. This means we can focus on like the deeper systems instead of basic carb handling. Number two, inflammation and lipids. LDL is borderline, CRP is trending down. We're using omega-3s, fiber, and liver support to lower that long-term cardiovascular risk and systemic inflammation. Number three is hormone balance. At this point, I don't have a testosterone deficiency. It seems more like I have a hormone processing issue, like high DHEA, high total estrogen. So we're using the DIM, the liver support, and the B vitamins and bile support to improve estrogen clearance. Number four, that is the gut and immune system. And so my immune system is reacting to several common foods, driving low-grade inflammation and potentially disrupting hormones. So ultimately, it's about removing the triggers, repairing the gut lining, and rebuilding microbiome with probiotics and the right foods. Number five, scroll down a little. It's about hydration and electrolytes. So mild dehydration shows up in my BUN. I've got a structured water plan plus electrolytes to optimize that energy, kidney function, and performance. Number six is the micronutrient foundation. So things like vitamin D, that was a massive win. Went from low to optimal, plus strong multivitamin, B vitamin stack, detox, and brain function. So that's the micronutrient piece. And last but not least, number seven, right? Stress and sleep. Screening for like sleep issues like sleep apnea, utilizing the adaptogens, and making sure that cortisol is within a good level. So why this all matters for you, and here's what I want you to take away from this, right? This level of health optimization, like understanding your labs, having a targeted plan, maybe working with a functional medicine practitioner. It used to feel like something that like only the ultra wealthy could access. But my mission is to show that it doesn't really have to be that way, especially with all the tools that we have now. The knowledge is accessible, the framework is accessible. You can learn to have a basic understanding of your labs and start to build a plan, with the right practitioner, even your regular medical doctor, if you know what to ask. And so that's really what we're looking to build. And it's more or less why one of the drivers anyway for me creating the Aging with Innovation school community, really specifically toward that like sandwich generation, which maybe I'm a part of now, feels like it. But people like us, we're juggling aging parents, kids, careers, trying to optimize our own health in the middle of all the chaos, right? And so the whole goal here is to kind of make that concierge level health optimization accessible to everyday people, where we can discuss labs, supplements, peptides, which I recently started using, by the way, protocols, what's working, what's not, and where we can help each other navigate this journey without needing like a six-figure budget to do it. So if you're watching this and thinking, I want to understand my own health at this level, I want to get some support, come join us in the community. The link is somewhere in this video. It's a community of people committed to optimizing their health, helping others do the same. And within it, I've got a ton of resources, even access to some functional medicine practitioners where we can do telehealth, and even some of the the protocols and treatments and so forth. Again, I myself, I'm not prescribing anything to anyone. It's more about connecting people with information, connecting people with providers, and as being part of a community where we can foster that. Because really, at the end of the day, if we can take agency, take ownership of our health, and realize that there's so much within our power, it really sets us on a path where we can make measurable change, measurable difference, and we don't have to just accept that like getting older means we're going to feel worse, we're going to decline. I mean, yeah, at some point maybe that's the reality, but we want to delay that for as long as possible. And if we have the education, the tools, the access, the providers, the community, it's going to make all of our lives that much better. And that's what the mission is here inside the Aging with Innovation School community. So hope to see you there. If you liked the video, got some value from it, please do me a huge favor and subscribe to this channel. Like the video, it definitely helps because then it will obviously show to more people, however that YouTube algorithm works. And join the community. Hopefully see you in there.